The huge alleged fraud orchestrated by former NASDAQ chairman Bernard Madoff is hitting several Israeli companies. Among those who invested with Madoff securities are a long list of Israeli insurance companies, such as Clow, Harel, and Phoenix, with losses over $20 million. The Technion University also might lose up to $25 million in endowment funds entrusted to Madoff. Other countries have also been burned by the Madoff touch. British lender, Royal Bank of Scotland, and hedge fund manager Man Group face combined losses of almost $1 billion. French investment bank Natixis said it may have indirectly lost up to $600 million. And BBVA, the second largest Spanish bank, could have been scammed to the tune of $400 million. One thing is clear, Madoff's alleged victims range from the super rich to pensioners, powerful financial institutions, and local charities. Many investors claim they've already been wiped out.
We now welcome investment expert Doug Goldstein to the studio to talk about the Madoff scandal. Doug, welcome.
Thanks very much.
We know that several American Jewish organizations received a mortal blow due to the financial mishap, and many private investors, quite a large amount of them Jewish, also lost a huge chunk of their savings. What can those who've been hurt do to retrieve at least some of their losses? Is there anything that they can do?
It's very difficult. At this stage, the information is so new, in fact, it only came out a few days ago, that it's not really clear if anyone is going to be able to recover anything and where the money actually went.
Doug, is there anything that investors can do in terms of warning signs that they see perhaps some wrongdoing taking place? I know with this particular case, there were several people who spoke up over the years that this was a sham, yet no one listened.
I always like to quote the rule that my mother taught me. My mother was a financial advisor too, and I think she wrote this. She said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that was the first red flag that people really should have had when they saw someone saying that he had very low volatility, he was making 10% a year. It just doesn't exist, right? You cannot do that year after year. So if someone begins to offer you some sort of deal that just sounds so excellent, that's when you really have to step back and say, you know, I'm not so sure it's true. And then if they're very secretive about it, which is the way that the hedge fund world often is, you have to be exceptionally careful. And we can see that even professional investors were scammed. And for originals, I think they really need to be very careful with their own money.
Well, of course, it's apparent that with Madoff himself, Bernard, he was greedy. But did greed play a role on the part of the investors?
Absolutely. That's over and over what we see time and time again. If the people themselves weren't greedy, and by the way, this goes back to what we discussed last time with the subprime mortgage crisis, which is, at the end of the day, someone had to actually take that loan. He had to try to borrow more money than he could in fact afford to pay back. So I think there's greed from the very bottom to the very top, and that's what we as individual investors have to stop ourselves from getting involved in.
Doug, a more general question. What can we do to help manage our own household finances in these troubled times? How do we manage our money now with the market sliding and the rest of the problems around?
Well, with all due respect to Starbucks and my friends at the local cafe, it's time to cut out the latte, right? And to be very careful, right? One of the biggest expenses that people have is going out, is heating their houses, is driving their car or a second car. Many, many items you can easily cut without a dramatic change in your lifestyle, and that's the first thing people should do. And it's an important lesson, not only to do it yourself, but to teach your kids that they have to begin to take financial responsibility. So take back their credit cards, stop driving everywhere, take the bus. It's okay to slow down a little bit. Maybe this is a lesson that we all have to learn.
Like when this financial tsunami began about 2 months ago, we had you on the broadcast, and you were still encouraging people to invest, be cautiously, invest in the stock market. You're still going with that advice?
I think the caution is what is critical here. There are plenty of opportunities out there. There are great companies that are trading at much lower prices than they used to be. And if you believe that over time things are going to get better, you have to buy when the markets are down. But again, make sure that the risk is something you can stand and that it fits in with your overall financial plan and asset allocation.
All right, Doug Goldstein, financial investment advisor, author of Building Wealth in Israel. Always good to have you with us, Doug.
Thanks very much.
In other news today, U.S. President George Bush assured Afghan President Hamid Karzai that the United